And good afternoon and welcome to the Prevention Corner. My name is Rich Coleman, and I am excited about being here with our two superintendents from the Ypsilanti Public Schools and the Willow Run Public Schools, who are going to talk with us today about the unification proposal. It is so important for our community members to be involved here in the Ypsilanti Willow Run area to understand what the proposal is, why your support is needed for our public schools, in addition to 3 public meetings that are coming up that we're looking for you to come out and be involved with. This unification process is being supported by our state superintendent, Mr. Flanagan, who has been on record and who is on record supporting, in addition to 2 of our elected officials here from our area, as well as $10 million that has been pushed aside for this proposal and the process for the unification. We're going to talk a little bit about that today as we talk with Superintendent Dietrich Martin and Laura Lizinski, who is from the Willow Run Public Schools. Thank you both so much for being on the program with us today. Let's start this process. And as I've been following the articles, we know that the Eastern Michigan University hosted a big meeting with the co-joint school boards. But before we get into the nuts and bolts, talk with us about why this is important. Okay. Superintendent Martin?
Absolutely. There's a number of reasons that we think it's important. One is financially. Both districts are at a point where we have to make some very tough decisions that we know are not going to be good for kids or for the community at large. So that's one reason that kind of pushed the conversation. But the biggest and most important reason is both districts and both of us as superintendents we have looked at some of the bitter realities that we have, and we're saying that we're not happy with where we are in terms of student achievement, and just the overall environment for education can improve. And if we have to make the necessary financial cuts that need to be made, it's going to make the picture even worse for our students, and they deserve better. So we think that this is a creative and unique way to not only solve a financial crisis, but really to readdress an academic crisis, and hopefully do it without having to have a state-imposed emergency manager or some other measure that would take away local control. We feel that we can maintain local control, deal with our deficit issues, and deal with our academic issues in a creative way. So we're committed to working together to do that.
Superintendent Lizinski?
Adding a little bit to that, we know that we have some pockets of success, so we want to make sure that we're able to sustain some programming that we know is good for our kids. One of the things that we've been stressing is those of us that work within the 2 communities, we know our community best, we know our students best, we know what they need to be successful, and we want to make sure that we're the ones that are able to push them into higher success, students' achievement, and making sure that we're the ones that are doing that.
Now, one of the things, too, that's been really interesting, and we've watched this for the last 5 or 6 years, actually a little bit longer than that, with No Child Left Behind. And all of the nuances that left all of these components in place without support, but mandates to do it. And this has had such a significant impact on our local schools. And the emphasis of the academic yearly progress reports and the expectations to move forward with less. And that has been awfully, awfully difficult. As we look at this big picture, and I know that the Department of Education is looking at some revisions with No Child Left Behind, has that had an impact with how you do business, even more here at the local level, that we look at all the national data, but the impact at the local level, has that been a part of this big picture with what we're seeing now?
Absolutely. I think the impact of really the communication and information about No Child Left Behind, assessment data, standards for adequate yearly progress, really has put things in a public light. In some ways it's good. It's forcing public education across the country to maybe take a second look at groups that have been historically underserved. But in other ways they are very hurtful because there are a lot of mandates that require a lot of additional resources, but yet the money following these mandates have not really been there, and that part has not been told very much. And so in some cases you can fall into a reactionary mode. For example, this year the state of Michigan has significantly changed the process on how schools are rated. And while we applaud the effort to increase the standards and try to get our kids more college and career ready, maybe all of the mechanisms that they go about was not the most well thought out. So it puts people in a reactionary mode where one year a school is considered good, the next year it's not so good, and schools are then jumping back and forth. Here in Ypsilanti, we've just tried to keep focus, saying that regardless of what was going on, we know by multiple measures that several of our kids, or too many of our kids, were not hitting the targets that they need to be hitting. So before we get too lost in all of these gyrations from the state or the federal level, we really need to focus on our kids in front of us every day and getting to the point where we're closing some of those achievement gaps, and we're looking at the target of where they need to be compared to where they are as the most important achievement gap, and not necessarily falling into the victim of this student compared to that student, but really what is it that students need to be able to do, and what is it that they need to know in order to be successful at the next stage of their life. And that's our focus, and that keeps us going in the same direction.
And Willow Run Community Schools is doing the same, and we've also, had some spotlights of success, but we know that there's a gap, and we've always been working on the gap. So regardless of whether it's a priority school or a focus school or even a reward school, we know that there's a gap, and we know that we want to do what's best for the kids by closing that gap and making sure that they all can be successful. So like Mr. Martin said, even though there are some mandates that get put in place that sometimes aren't the best thought out, but the intentions are there, we just keep plugging forward, doing what we know is best for the kids.
Sure. You know, one of the things too, and I think a lot of our community members don't really understand the role of WISD in the intermediate school district, because they think that we have our local schools and then that thing over there was kind of on the other side of town. Talk to us about that relationship and how supportive they've been at the intermediate school district level for this unification process.
It's easy for people to think about it this way. They're really a service entity, and their job is to help service the public schools. So one of their big focuses is working with special education, but the other thing, they work with school districts in terms of helping us work through some of our fiscal or budgetary issues. They work with us in terms of providing support when needed for professional development opportunities. So they might host something at the WISD that's needed in all the schools, and for all the, whether it's the superintendents, building level principals, have meetings through that organization. So they really serve as kind of a service hub within the county to help us all have some commonality in areas where it's needed, but also help us individually as individual school districts in areas. So for us on our end, they have really stepped up to help out in terms of transportation. That was a very touchy area.
Sure.
We needed to make some changes for some financial reasons, and while that wasn't their particular area of focus or expertise, they were willing to step up and help take on that burden and create a transportation system. In terms of us as a school district, we have worked with them as we have done some redesign projects in both the Ypsilanti Public School District as well as the Willow Run School District. So they've provided some assistance behind the scenes there. They've provided some professional development opportunities that was uniquely geared towards some of the academic challenges that we've had in both of the districts. They have worked with us in terms of creation of the Early College Alliance, the International Baccalaureate High School Program, the WAY, which is the 24/7 online high school program for students. So in a lot of ways, they're kind of like the assistant coach on a winning team. You know, they're doing a lot of things behind the scenes, helping us do our jobs a little bit better that people don't really realize because they're really just a service-oriented operation.
Gotcha.
But when it came to the unification, then they became the facilitator, being in the forefront to make sure that everything that needed to get done, and kind of like behind the scenes as well, making sure that all the work that had to get done to push the unification forward, they were there to make sure that that happened.
Now, the two school boards have the meeting at Eastern Michigan University last month are in complete support of the unification process. That was a part of the process that needed to be moved forward in order to get it on the ballot, correct? And now that that has been done, and we're looking at all of the components, how important is the faith community with the outreach to help with the education of parents is this to this effort?
To me, it's hugely important. You know, there's a lot of families, particularly in the African American community. You know, wherever you go across the country, the faith-based community and that connection in churches, you know, that's where we get a lot of our information, and that's where sometimes that information is vetted so that we know it's coming from a trusting source. So it's important for just to get the communication out. It's important that in some cases it allows school districts or other organizations to work with the community and develop and start from a basis of trust. Because if people don't trust what we're doing, if they don't trust that we're genuinely trying or we're genuinely working towards a particular end that's in their best interest, you're not invited in. So to be embraced, to be to have the support of the faith-based community, I think in this particular instance is huge because in some ways they can reach an audience a lot more effectively than what we can even reach an audience because it's coming from a position of trust and understanding through that organization.
Because I know out in Willow Run, and I've had an opportunity to fellowship with a number of the churches throughout the Ypsilanti Ann Arbor area, and I know that the Willow Run schools are surrounded by some fantastic faith leaders that's out there. We've been very involved with them over the years. What's it from your perspective as well?
Well, it's the same. We know that it's a trusting entity. We know that the people are going to reach out and listen to the word of the pastor and the reverends that are talking about what they think is best for what's happening in the community. And so to have them on our side is huge. And we talk to them one-on-one, and we are able to then go to their place and just be able to talk with the people, and we know we have their ear.
Now, there's another group that's also very important, which is the Ypsilanti Ann Arbor Chamber of Commerce.
Yes.
Have come out with a letter of support that's posted at the website, and we're going to be putting the website information up on the screen as well as all of the dates coming up for the upcoming meetings. But that's another important entity.
Yes.
The business community.
Yes.
And not only the support on the peripheral, but also it's that pool of these are where the future jobs are. This is where that growth is, that they can tap into the schools and utilize those student bodies, those student programs. How important is that as well?
For me, it's hugely important. I think anywhere you go, and it's been well known for a long time, good quality schools is an economic interest to that end, and it's a community good. So to that end, whether you're talking faith-based, whether you're talking just neighborhood associations, or whether you're talking the economic community or the business community, one of the hubs for a healthy community is a strong system of educational support for students. Realizing that we have been struggling in many ways for a number of years, and that there's two superintendents and there's two school leaders, if you will, who are saying, you know, enough for the separation, but we need to work together so that we can create something better for the kids and ultimately better for the community. I think that strikes interest with a lot of people. So we've had a lot of support from the Chamber as it relates to some of the other innovative programs that we've put in place. So when you talk about the International Baccalaureate programs or the New Tech programs that are going in both areas, even talking about this consolidation effort, there seems to be a lot of support because they're very much interested in if we have strong, healthy choices for our children, then that creates a business environment where people want to live and relocate and do business in our community. And that's a desirable thing. That's also healthy for the average homeowner. If you have a home that you're invested in, you want to see the home value maintained. And having good, strong schools where people desire to be in the area and stay in the area or move to the area is a good economic interest, it's a good community interest, it's good for the faith-based community, everybody across the board.
And our local and small businesses have been partnering with both Willow Run Community Schools and Ypsilanti Public Schools. So moving forward with this consolidation, they're supporting us because they've seen just the little bit of work that we've been able to do together, being separate. So I think what we can do being one is even greater. And, you know, the Chamber of Commerce having, as you mentioned, Ann Arbor/Ypsilanti,
Yes.
they've kind of done what we've done. So we're showing that we're moving in the right direction. We're moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that's so great to see, and I've done a lot of work in my role with Pittsfield Township with the chambers and know how integral. You don't really look at jurisdictional lines. It's all one melting pot of education, of jobs, and things that we're doing here in our community. And there's two other groups that's also at your websites that have supported. The NAACP
Yes.
group has been extremely supportive, as well as Sheriff Jerry Clayton.
Yes.
Our school resource officers in our public schools are vitally important.
Yes.
And that relationship of having that presence there, not only for school safety and that factor of knowing that you've got an officer present if there's a need. How important are those particular initiatives in that school climate for students, staff, and families?
You wanna-
Well, that's one of the things that we've been talking about with the unification, is that we know that safety is first. If our students feel safe, if they feel that they can trust the environment, if they feel that when they walk in, they know that they have people that they can go to, but again, it's a safe place, then they're going to be more successful in their learning. And we've had liaison officers in our buildings before, and even when we don't have the liaison officers, we know that we are just a phone call away, and that they're there to help us be successful so that the kids can be successful. And it's just been great to know that they want to partner with us and that they are supporting this unification, because again, it goes back to having that healthy economy. If you have the healthy culture, if you have the healthy community, then there's going to be greater success within the community itself.
You know, and I've had the chance to speak with Sheriff Clayton and members of the NAACP, and I think everybody is clear that, you know, we want our children to do better. One thing we all have in common, no matter what we're doing in our professional career, we all at some point went to school, whether it's public school, private school, charter school even. And everybody understands the importance of education as being a great opportunity for people to move up and to move into whatever their desires are in terms of taking care of themselves, taking care of their family, taking care of their community. I know, so when you look at some of the research and statistics out there that talk about students not being successful and the number of prison beds being put together, you know, that cuts across a lot of lines in our community. It cuts across, you know, lines in terms of people who look at, well, wait a minute, statistically speaking, you know, my children may be one of those statistics if we don't have a strong educational system. My community, my neighbor. So I think we're getting support because there's a commonality amongst multiple entities. Like you said, we're starting to look broader than just our little corner of the city, and we're starting to say, we go to the same churches, we go to, you know, the same community events, we'll be at various functions together. How come we can't work as one school district?
Sure.
You know, because we all have the same interests. We want strong, safe, healthy schools for our children to grow and to thrive. And we know if that's good for the community, it's going to be good for the law enforcement, good for the NAACP, good for the faith-based community. Good quality educational opportunities is the gateway for a lot of our children to get to a better life. And so everybody wants that.
And you know, one of the things too that I know, even though it's not at the website, and we're going to put the Unification website, that the link up on the screen as well, is the colleges and universities that are in our backyard.
Yes.
Eastern Michigan University, Washtenaw Community College, Cleary, University of Michigan. We've got plethora of higher educational components that are looking at the success of this unification, because these are the feeders. How important has that relationship been as you're working with the colleges and universities, not only from a research and a perspective of helping with the researches they have with staff, but that pool that's going up to the next level? How important has that been?
Well, I think you just mentioned it. I mean, that if the community high schools are more successful, then they have a larger pool, and there's going to be more that are going to be entering into all of the college's courses, and then not going through mediation courses, but actually starting into the college courses and being successful to the point of graduation. So it's very important for us to partner with them, and we've been partnering with them all along, and they're just really on board and excited about the opportunities of us having a unified school district where they can actually get into the buildings with us and start that dual enrollment earlier than.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And I have to give a lot of kudos to the colleges and universities, Eastern Michigan, U of M, all of them that you mentioned, WCC, their university president spent 2 days with us on the design process. They're very interested in helping to develop our young students, whether it's from the interest of helping them become stronger and go directly into the workforce, or helping them in terms of being ready by the time they enter one of our local universities. There seems to be a lot stronger emphasis in the universities in our area partnering with us and saying, we want to do more than just a little bit of research in our backyard. We want to actually help make this a stronger, more vibrant educational community, because we know that that's going to have a lot of positive benefits down the road.
So we have some meetings coming up that the community will be invited to. The community forums in support of this particular unification process. October 10th at 7 p.m. at Christ Temple Baptist Church, 2372 Holmes Road. October 11th, 6:30 p.m. at Community Church of God, 565 Jefferson Street here in Ypsilanti. And Wednesday, October 24th, 6:30 p.m., Ypsilanti District Library, 5577 Whitaker Road here in Ypsilanti. Talk to us about, very briefly, because we're getting ready to wrap up, what's going to happen at those forums, and will there be the opportunity for the community members to ask questions, get their concerns addressed? What's going to happen at those meetings?
We typically give them some of the background information, the financial, the academics, and the reasons why. Why are we at this point? Why are we even having this conversation? Then we let them know about some of the core essentials that we feel are important in the development of the new district, and kind of the foundational cornerstones that we want to build on. And so Laura can probably go into some of those a little bit more detail, but essentially we want to frame the issue for them, and then we want to hear their feedback, because we know that we can always go close the doors and go in the back room and draw up a plan, but that's probably not going to be the most successful way. We want the community to be a part of developing a new unified district, because this is for the community, it's for the kids. So there will be a lot of time for questions.
And we talk about, birth to college and career, so that's 0 to 20. We talk about leadership and effective leadership. We talk about climate and culture and what it means to actually the students and the staff, and what it means to have a healthy environment. And we go through those kind of core cornerstones that have kind of started this design plan that we had, community invoice. We had about 70 stakeholders that were involved for the couple days where we had full 8-hour meetings. And then from there, we open it up to questions, and the questions are always thought-provoking and very intricate into and integral into what actually the plan is going to look like. So we encourage people to come out, and any questions and concerns that they have, to bring them with them, so that we can try and ease their minds, so that when they get to the polls on November 6th, they actually have some good background knowledge as to why they should vote either way they decide to vote.
Well, Superintendent Martin and Lazinski, thank you so much for being a part of the Prevention Corner program today.
Thank you.
We're going to put this information up on the screen of all of the 3 meetings that are coming up. The website, the contact information will be available at all the schools.
Yes.
That any of the parents and community members who are concerned, but we're looking for your support on this initiative. For first, you want to become educated so that you can know what's being asked and how you can help. It's important for all of us to play a part in our community, because when we say the buzzwords, the children are our future, we're there now, folks. Our future is here, and we all have to help support it. My name is Rich Coleman. I'm the host for the Prevention Corner. It's been my humble host to be here, to be a part of this effort to help support the Ypsilanti Willow Run Unification Initiative. We'll see you at the next episode, but pay attention to all of the dates and times and website information so that you can play a part. Thank you so much. We'll see you. And good afternoon. We are here in the Ypsilanti community with our local churches in support of the unification of the Ypsilanti and Willow Run public schools. We've just had an opportunity to talk to our 2 superintendents, and now we're talking with our ministers here in the community from the Ministers Alliance and from the local churches, all in support of the unification process and the upcoming meetings that will be held in October. I'm going to have the pastors introduce themselves, tell us what church they're from, and then we're going to get the comments from Pastor Van Williams, who is the chair of the Ministerial Alliance here in Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor.
My name is Pastor Swanson. I'm the pastor of the New Creed Missionary Baptist Church in Ypsilanti, Michigan.
I am Reverend James Hendricks, pastor of the St. John Missionary Baptist Church on the south side of Ypsilanti, Michigan at 866 Monroe Street.
And I am here with the pastor of the church that we stand behind, Second Baptist Church. Pastor?
Van Williams, pastor Second Baptist Church here in Ypsilanti.
So, Pastor, we are in the process of working with our local public schools in support of the unification process. The Ministerial Alliance, which is such an important, integral part of the work here in Ypsilanti, reaching out to our community, is supporting this initiative. How important is this for our schools to not only be unified, but for our churches to play an active role?
First of all, we have to understand that both of our school districts that are considering unification, Ypsilanti and Willow Run, are struggling districts. Realistically, they're on life support.
Yes.
And to sit back and to do nothing would bring about failure to both districts and both communities. And so it's very important that we would try to unite the districts, take advantages of the opportunities that are available that would be as a result of the unification. And the Ministerial Alliance of Ypsilanti and Ann Arbor vicinity, considering all of the options, we strongly support the option of unification.
What's so important about this, as we've had an opportunity to talk to our superintendents, they realize how important the faith community is to this initiative, because so many of our members who interact with the schools and the PTO groups and the sporting activities, we know how important the educational process is and how much they've leaned on the churches to help get this message out. The 3 meetings that are coming up in October, 2 of them are being held at our local churches. And is everybody invited to come out to those meetings?
Everyone is invited to come to every meeting. As president of the Alliance, we made it clear that all of our churches were open and available to host meetings because we recognize the importance of disseminating the information.
One of the things that we will be doing, we're going to be putting a list of all of our local churches who are supporting this initiative on the screen, in addition to the Ministerial Alliance website, contact information, as well as they're welcome to come to church on Sunday morning. Is that right, Pastor?
Praise the Lord. That's absolutely correct.
Tell us about your service times, and I'm going to do that with all the pastors. What times are your services here at Second Baptist?
Our Sunday school begins at 9 o'clock a.m. each Sunday morning. Our morning worship begins at 10:45 a.m.
Everybody welcome?
Everyone is welcome.
Pastor, let's come back over here. What time your service?
Amen. Our Sunday school begins at 10 a.m. and our morning service begins every Sunday at 11 a.m.
Everybody's welcome?
Everybody is welcome.
Absolutely. Pastor?
Yes, we have an 8 o'clock worship service that begin at 8 a.m. Sunday school at 9:30, and our regular worship service began at 11 a.m. So every Sunday morning. Everyone's welcome.
Fantastic. So you've heard it. Churches are welcome you to come into the services to participate in worship. If you don't have a church home, we got 3 pastors right here that will help you out, as well as the fellowship that are going on here at the church and the community members who are involved in our schools who have made a commitment. Our young people can't make this effort without the parent support and the community support. The Ypsilanti Willow Run unification process is critically important for the future of our students, our colleges, that they are feeders for our local students, and we want every student in the Ypsilanti, Willow Run, Ann Arbor area to be able to get access to going to college. We can't go any further without having that additional educational skills that are needed for the future job workforce. We're here with the Ministerial Alliance in support of the Ypsilanti Willow Run unification process. Thank you so much. We'll be right back.